Some of the biggest stars from the Golden Age died in poverty, and what makes their stories even more tragic is that many of them suffered immensely after leaving Hollywood. They lost their dignity, their health, and they were forgotten by the very industry that once celebrated them. The bright lights, the fame, the money, it all disappeared forever. And if you think you've heard tragic Hollywood stories, wait until you hear about the last actor on this list, Marie Prevost. Her death was so disturbing that the newspapers turned it into a sensational scandal that overshadowed her entire career. The way she was found and what happened in her final days alone in her apartment is something that still haunts Hollywood history. Here are 10 actors that died totally poor. Number 10, Veronica Lake. Veronica Lake was one of the most recognizable faces of the 1940s. Her signature peekaboo hairstyle became so popular that women across America copied it. She starred in major films like Sullivan's Travels and This Gun for Hire, alongside Alan Ladd. At her peak, she was making serious money and living the Hollywood life. But Lake had a reputation for being difficult on set. She clashed with directors and other actors constantly. Lake's personal life was a mess, too. She went through multiple divorces and struggled with drinking. She moved to New York and took whatever work she could find. In 1962, a newspaper reporter found her working as a barmaid in a rundown hotel. She spent her final years in poverty, living in a small apartment. When she died in 1973 from hepatitis and kidney failure, she had almost nothing to her name. Number 9, Bela Lugosi. When you think of Dracula, you think of Bela Lugosi. His 1931 performance as the vampire count made him a household name overnight. The thick Hungarian accent, the piercing stare, the cape. Lugosi became horror royalty. But here's the problem. Lugosi got typecast. Studios only wanted him to play monsters and villains. He turned down the role of Frankenstein's monster, thinking it was beneath him. That role went to Boris Karloff instead, and Karloff's career took off while Lugosi stayed stuck. As the years went by, Lugosi took any role he could get. Low-budget horror films that paid almost nothing. He became addicted to morphine, which he started taking for pain from an old injury. The addiction destroyed his finances and his reputation. By the 1950s, Lugosi was broke. He couldn't pay his bills. He checked himself into a hospital to try to beat his morphine addiction, and the newspapers covered it like a scandal. He was living in a tiny apartment, barely scraping by. Director Ed Wood gave him work in some of the worst films ever made. Lugosi needed the money so badly, he took the roles without question. He died in 1956 at age 73. He was buried in his Dracula cape because his son knew how much the role meant to him. Number 8, Diana Barrymore. Diana Barrymore came from Hollywood royalty. Her father was the legendary actor John Barrymore. She had the name, the looks, and the connections to make it big, and for a while she did. She appeared on Broadway and in films during the 1940s. But Diana inherited more than just her father's talent. She inherited his demons, too. She started drinking young, just like her father. She went through multiple marriages that all fell apart. The studios didn't want to deal with her anymore. By her 30s, Diana's career was basically over. She tried to make money by writing an autobiography called Too Much Too Soon. It was brutally honest about her drinking and her failures. But the book money didn't last. Diana kept drinking and couldn't hold down work. She moved into a small apartment in New York. She was divorced, broke, and alone. In 1960, at just 38 years old, she was found dead in her apartment. The official cause was listed as an alcohol and pill overdose. Number 7, Francis X. Bushman. In the silent film era, Francis X. Bushman was as big as they come. Women went crazy for him. He was one of the first true movie stars making enormous amounts of money. He drove expensive cars, lived in mansions, and had everything he wanted. Bushman played Masala in the 1925 version of Ben-Hur. It was a massive production, and he was perfect as the villain. But the movie cost so much to make that it nearly bankrupted the studio. After that, he made some bad business decisions. He invested in properties that lost value. He went through expensive divorces. All the money that had seemed endless started disappearing fast. By the 1940s, Bushman was taking small roles just to pay bills. Character parts and bit roles in films films where he used to be the star. He did radio work. He appeared on television. Anything to make money. When Bushman died in 1966, he was living in a modest home. The mansions were long gone. The cars were gone. Number 6. Barbara Payton. Barbara Payton could have been a major star. In the early 1950s, she was stunning. She dated famous men including Howard Hughes and Bob Hope. She got roles in films with big-name actors like James Cagney and Gary Cooper. But Payton's personal life was chaos from the start. She had affairs with almost every man she met. She got into violent relationships. She was arrested multiple times for public intoxication. As her drinking got worse, her looks started to fade, and Hollywood turned its back on her. By the late 1950s, Payton couldn't get legitimate acting work anymore. She was broke and desperate. The beautiful actress who once had everything was now doing whatever it took to survive. In 1962, police found her passed out at a bus stop on Sunset Boulevard, wearing just a coat and a bathing suit. She was arrested for being drunk in public. That same year, she was arrested again for being drunk and disorderly at a party. Payton spent her final years drinking in cheap bars. She looked nothing like the gorgeous woman she'd been just a decade earlier. In 1967, she died at only 39 years old from heart and liver failure. She was so broke, she couldn't even afford proper medical care. Number 5. Gail Russell. Gail Russell had the kind of beauty that stopped people in their tracks. Dark hair, pale skin, and stunning eyes. Paramount Pictures signed her in the 1940s, and she appeared in films like The Uninvited and Angel and the Bad Man with John Wayne. But Russell had severe stage fright and anxiety. To cope with it, she started drinking before going on set. The drinking helped calm her nerves, but it quickly became a serious problem. She was arrested multiple times for drunk driving. Studios started dropping her because she was unreliable. She'd show up late or not at all. By her 30s, she couldn't get work anymore. She tried to stop drinking, but it never lasted. Russell's life spiraled downward fast. She went through financial problems and couldn't pay her bills. She was evicted from several apartments. In 1961, she was found dead in her small Los Angeles apartment surrounded by empty bottles. Number 4. Hattie McDaniel. Hattie McDaniel made history. In 1940, she became the first black actor to win an Academy Award for her role as Mammy in Gone with the Wind. It should have been the beginning of an incredible career. She was talented, funny, and had proven she could hold her own against any actor in Hollywood. But this was the 1940s, and Hollywood was racist. After her Oscar win, McDaniel kept getting offered the same type of roles. Maids and servants. That's all they'd let her play. She took the work because she needed the money, but it was frustrating and limiting. McDaniel also faced criticism from the black community. Some people felt she was reinforcing negative stereotypes by playing servant roles. She defended herself, saying she'd rather play a maid and make money than be one in real life. But the criticism hurt. As she got older, the roles became fewer. She did radio work and appeared on television, but the big film roles never came. In 1952, she died from breast cancer at age 57. When McDaniel died, she had very little money left. The Oscar winner who broke barriers in Hollywood didn't have much to show for it financially. Number 3. Billie Burke. You know Billie Burke, even if you don't know her name. She played Glinda the Good Witch in The Wizard of Oz. That sparkling crown, that sweet voice telling Dorothy to follow the yellow brick road. Burke had been a major Broadway star before moving to Hollywood, and she appeared in dozens of films. But Burke's husband was Florence Ziegfeld, the famous Broadway producer. When he died in 1932, he left behind massive debts. Burke found herself responsible for hundreds of thousands of dollars that he owed. She spent years working constantly just to pay off his debts. Even though Burke kept working through the 1940s and 1950s, most of her money went to paying off what her husband owed. She took any role offered to her: television work, radio, commercial voiceovers. She never stopped working because she couldn't afford to. When Burke died in 1970 at age 85, she had finally paid off the debts, but there wasn't much left for her. The woman who played one of the most beloved characters in film history spent most of her life working to pay off someone else's mistakes. Number 2. Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin was the biggest star of the silent film era. The Little Tramp character made him one of the most recognizable people on the planet. He wasn't just an actor. actor. He wrote, directed, and produced his own films. Movies like City Lights, The Gold Rush, and Modern Times are still considered masterpieces today. Chaplin made an absolute fortune during his peak years. He co-founded United Artists Studio and had complete creative control over his work. He built a massive estate and lived like royalty. But Chaplin's problems started piling up in the 1940s. His personal life became a scandal. He went through messy divorces and paternity suits that cost him millions. He married his fourth wife, Una O'Neill, when she was only 18, and he was 54, which caused public outrage. Then the political troubles hit. During the Red Scare of the 1950s, Chaplin was accused of having communist sympathies. The FBI investigated him for years. J. Edgar Hoover wanted him gone. In 1952, when Chaplin left for England to premiere a film, the U.S. government revoked his re-entry permit. They basically kicked him out of the country. Chaplin settled in Switzerland with his family. While he wasn't completely destitute, his American assets were frozen and tied up in legal battles for years. The man who had once been Hollywood's biggest star and wealthiest filmmaker found himself cut off from his fortune and banned from the country that made him famous. He eventually received some of his money back, but the legal fees took almost all of it. When he died in 1977, he had almost no money left. Number 1. Marie Prevost. Marie Prevost was a popular actress in silent films and early talkies. She was funny, charming, and appeared in dozens of movies during the 1920s. She worked with some of the biggest directors of the era, and audiences loved her. But when sound came to films, Prevost struggled. Her voice was fine, but she was starting to gain weight. Hollywood in that era was ruthless about actresses' appearances. The studios wanted her thin, and when she couldn't lose the weight fast enough, they stopped hiring her. Prevost tried crash diets and extreme measures to lose weight. She became depressed and started drinking heavily. By the mid-1930s, she couldn't find work at all. She ran out of money and had to keep moving to cheaper and cheaper apartments. In 1937, Prevost was found dead in her apartment. She had died from acute alcoholism and malnutrition. She'd been dead for days before anyone found her. She was only 38 years old. The truly heartbreaking part is that her small dog had been with her when she died, and with no one to feed it, the animal had to survive however it could. The newspapers sensationalized this detail, and it overshadowed her entire career. Marie Prevost, who once made audiences laugh, died alone and broke in a tiny apartment.